a reclusive toymaker, haunted by a traumatic past and a chilling encounter with a malevolent entity disguised as Santa Claus, uncovers a terrifying truth about the jolly icon, a truth that threatens to shatter the world's perception of Christmas and plunge humanity into an eternal winter of despair. The biting Arctic wind howled a mournful dirge, clawing at the frosted windows of my secluded workshop. Inside, amidst the scent of sawdust, pine, and the ghostly remnants of forgotten laughter, I, Elias Thorne, toymaker extraordinaire, or so I once was, huddled beside the dying embers of a fire, a prisoner of my own tormented memories. It had been 20 years since I last crafted a toy, 20 years since the joyous melodies of Christmas carols had been replaced by the chilling whispers that echoed in the desolate corners of my mind. 20 years since the night he came. I was once a man filled with the spirit of Christmas. My workshop, nestled in the heart of a snow-laden forest far north of any major city, maybe any city, was a haven of wonder. A place where dreams were meticulously carved from wood and painted with the vibrant hues of imagination. Children from around the world would send me their heartfelt letters, their innocent desires fueling my passion. I saw myself as a conduit of joy, a humble artisan in service to the spirit of Christmas, embodied, of course, in the jovial figure of Santa Claus. But my naive faith was shattered on that fateful Christmas Eve, a night that forever stained the pristine white snow with the crimson stain of terror. I was working late, putting the finishing touches on a magnificent wooden train set, when a bone-chilling gust of wind extinguished the lanterns, plunging the workshop into darkness. A strange silence followed. A silence so profound it felt as though the world itself was holding its breath. Then I heard it, a faint rhythmic jingling, growing steadily louder, accompanied by the muffled thud of heavy footsteps on the snow-covered roof. A childish thrill, a remnant of my long-lost innocence, flickered within me. It was him, Santa, the real Santa. A wave of excitement washed over me, quickly followed by a surge of trepidation. Why would he visit me? I was just a toymaker, not a child on his list. The jingling stopped directly above. A long moment stretched, thick with anticipation, before a deafening crash ripped through the silence. The chimney, old and weakened by years of harsh winters, collapsed inward, showering the workshop with soot and debris. Through the swirling dust, a figure emerged. It was Santa, but not the Santa of my childhood dreams. This Santa was wrong. His once bright red suit was stained and tattered, the fur trim matted and caked with a dark, viscous substance that glistened repulsively in the dim light. His rosy cheeks were sunken and pale, his twinkling eyes replaced by two burning embers that seemed to pierce through my very soul. A cruel, predatory grin stretched across his face, revealing rows of yellowed, pointed teeth that were far too numerous, far too sharp to be human. The scent of decay and something else, something ancient and indescribably foul, filled the air, turning my stomach. This was no jolly gift-giver. This was a predator, a monster cloaked in the guise of a beloved icon. Ho, 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 he rasped, his voice a guttural parody of Santa's cheerful bellow. Each word dripped with a chilling malice that sent shivers down my spine. Have you been a good boy, Elias? Fear, raw and primal, seized me. I stumbled backward, knocking over a shelf laden with half-finished toys. They clattered to the floor, the sound swallowed by the oppressive silence that followed the creature's words. I don't understand, I stammered, my voice a trembling whisper. What are you? The creature chuckled, a dry, rasping sound that seemed to scrape against the inside of my skull. He took a step closer, his heavy boots crunching on the scattered toys. In his hand, he held a sack, not the overflowing bag of gifts from the stories, but a smaller, stained sack that pulsed faintly, as if something alive were trapped within. "I am the spirit of Christmas, little toymaker," he hissed, his voice dripping with venomous irony. "I am the joy, the wonder, the giver of gifts." He reached into the sack and pulled out something small and wrapped in blood-stained paper. He held it out to me, his burning gaze fixed on mine. "A present for you," he crooned. Hesitantly, I reached out and took the package. It was surprisingly heavy, and a strange, unsettling warmth emanated from within. My fingers trembled as I tore away the paper, revealing a small, intricately carved wooden doll. It was a perfect replica of me, but as I stared at the doll, a wave of nausea washed over me. The doll's eyes, once blank, began to glow with the same malevolent red light as the creature's. A thin, cruel smile stretched across its wooden face, mirroring the monstrous grin of the thing that stood before me. Then the doll moved. Its tiny wooden limbs twitched, its head turned, and its glowing red eyes locked onto mine. A high-pitched, chilling giggle escaped its painted lips. I screamed and dropped the doll as if it were a burning coal. It landed on the floor with a sickening thud, its laughter echoing through the workshop. The creature that called itself Santa threw back its head and roared with laughter, a sound so filled with malice and triumph that it seemed to shake the very foundations of the workshop. "You see, Elias," he rasped, his voice thick with amusement, "you are not so different from me. We are both creators, but you create hollow shells, while I create something far more lasting." He gestured towards the sack, which was now pulsing more violently. "I create belief." He then proceeded to pick up the doll, and with a swift, brutal motion he snapped its wooden head off. My scream was cut short as a searing pain ripped through my own neck. I clutched at my throat, gasping for air, feeling as though an invisible force were crushing my windpipe. The creature watched me, his eyes burning with a cold, predatory glee. "Don't worry, little toy maker," he whispered, his voice a chilling caress. "The pain is only temporary. Soon you will understand. Soon you will join me." He then reached into his sack again, this time pulling out a larger, more ornate box. He opened it, revealing a collection of sharp, glinting tools, needles, hooks, and blades of various sizes, all stained with the same dark, viscous substance that caked his suit. As he advanced towards me, his tools glinting in the dim light, I knew that my nightmare had only just begun. This was not the end. This was the beginning of a horror far beyond my comprehension, a horror that would forever stain the joyous image of Christmas with the crimson hue of terror. The joyful tune turned into a sinister hum. The creature was preparing for something truly awful. This section will detail Elias's torment and escape, the creature's pursuit, and the horrifying rituals it performs. Elias will begin to piece together fragments of the truth, that this entity is an ancient malevolent being that feeds on the joy and innocence of Christmas, twisting the holiday into a grotesque parody of its true meaning. The following weeks were a blur of agonizing pain and mind-numbing terror. The creature, whom I now knew as Krampus, though he vehemently denied the name, claiming it to be a crude, inaccurate label given by frightened mortals, kept me captive in my own workshop, transforming the once joyful space into a charnel house of horrors. He used his tools on me, not in the way a craftsman uses his tools to create, but in the way a butcher uses his tools to dissect. He peeled back layers of my flesh, not to kill, but to inflict maximum pain, to break my spirit, to reshape me into something else, He whispered to me constantly, his voice a venomous drone that burrowed into my mind, weaving tales of a world where Christmas was not a celebration of love and generosity, but a ritual of sacrifice, a feeding frenzy for ancient, forgotten gods. He spoke of the true spirit of Christmas, a spirit of darkness and consumption, a spirit that predated the modern, sanitized version of the holiday. He claimed that Santa Claus was a fabrication, a lie created to mask the true nature of the season, which was to appease the hunger of beings like him, beings that thrived on the energy of human emotion, particularly the potent cocktail of joy, anticipation, and innocence that permeated the Christmas season. Krampus forced me to watch as he performed his grotesque rituals. He would bring in animals, reindeer, he claimed, though they were twisted, emaciated things that bore little resemblance to the majestic creatures of legend, and slaughter them in the workshop, using their blood and organs to create horrific decorations, twisted parodies of Christmas ornaments. He hung garlands of entrails across the walls, fashioned wreaths from bones, and used hollowed-out skulls as macabre candle holders. The stench of blood and decay permeated everything, mingling with the lingering scent of pine and sawdust, creating a nauseating aroma that clung to my clothes, my skin, my very soul. The once bright colors of my workshop were now stained with crimson and overlaid with a thick layer of grime and filth. The joyous melodies of Christmas carols were replaced by the creature's guttural chants and the chilling screams of his victims. But the worst part was the gifts. Krampus would force me to create them. Twisted, nightmarish toys that moved on their own, that whispered insidious lies, that seemed to feed on the very life force of anyone who touched them. He would then take these cursed objects and distribute them throughout the world, using his uncanny ability to travel vast distances in the blink of an eye, leaving them under Christmas trees, in stockings, in the hands of unsuspecting children. I witnessed the horrifying consequences of these gifts firsthand. Krampus would often bring back news of the chaos and despair they unleashed, tales of families torn apart by madness, of children consumed by fear and paranoia, of communities plunged into darkness. Each story, each whispered detail, was a fresh torment, a reminder of my complicity in this monstrous charade. My chance came during one of the creature's absences. He had left the workshop, his sack filled with another batch of his cursed gifts, leaving me alone, bound to a chair, my body a patchwork of scars and half-healed wounds. The pain was a constant companion, a dull roar that threatened to drown out all other senses. But beneath the pain, a spark of defiance still flickered. I had to escape. I had to warn the world. Using a shard of broken glass from a shattered ornament, a twisted angel with a malevolent grin, I painstakingly sawed through the ropes that bound me. Each movement sent agony lancing through my ravaged body, but the thought of the innocent souls being corrupted by the creature's gifts fueled my desperate efforts. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the ropes gave way. I stumbled to my feet, my legs weak and trembling, and fled the workshop, leaving behind the charnel house that had become my prison. The Arctic wilderness was a brutal, unforgiving landscape. The biting wind whipped at my exposed skin, the freezing snow numbing my feet. But the harsh elements were nothing compared to the terror that gnawed at my insides. I knew the creature would return, and when he did, he would hunt me down. I stumbled through the snow-covered forest for days, driven by a desperate hope of finding civilization, of finding someone who would believe my insane story. My body was failing, my mind teetering on the brink of madness. Hallucinations plagued me, visions of the creature, of his grotesque rituals, of the twisted toys whispering their insidious lies. Just as my strength was about to give out, I stumbled upon a small, isolated village, nestled in a remote valley, seemingly untouched by the outside world. It was a relic of a bygone era, a place where the old ways still held sway. The villagers, a hardy, suspicious folk, were initially wary of me, a ragged, half-mad stranger who emerged from the wilderness spouting tales of a demonic Santa Claus. But there was an old woman, a village elder named Anuk, who saw something in my eyes, a flicker of truth amidst the madness. She listened patiently as I recounted my ordeal, her wrinkled face etched with a growing horror. When I finished, she was silent for a long time, her gaze fixed on the flickering flames of the hearth fire. "The old one," she finally whispered, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and reverence. "We thought it was just a legend, a story to frighten children." She then told me the village's own stories, passed down through generations, tales of a being that predated Santa Claus, a being of immense power and insatiable hunger that resided in the frozen wastes, a being that fed on the joy and innocence of humanity, a being that was particularly drawn to the potent energy of the winter solstice, the time when the veil between worlds was thinnest. Anuk explained that the villagers had long performed ancient rituals to appease the Old One, rituals that involved offerings of food and handmade crafts, rituals that had been twisted and corrupted over time, eventually evolving into the modern celebration of Christmas. "Santa Claus," Anuk said, her voice heavy with sorrow, "is a shield, a mask, a way to hide the true nature of the Old One from the world. But the shield is weakening, the Old One is growing stronger, and your encounter with it has accelerated its awakening." The pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. The creature I had encountered was not merely a demon disguised as Santa Claus. It was the source, the ancient evil that had been warped and sanitized into the jolly figure of Christmas legend. Anuk revealed a hidden chamber beneath the village, a place where ancient texts and artifacts were kept. These texts, written in a language that predated any known script, detailed the Old One's history, its powers, and most importantly, its weakness. It fed on belief. The more people believed in the sanitized, commercialized version of Christmas, the weaker the Old One became. But the creature, in its twisted form as Santa, was subverting that belief, turning it into a source of fear and despair, feeding its own power. The solution, Anuk explained, was to shatter the illusion, to reveal the truth about Santa Claus, to expose the Old One for what it truly was. Only then could its power be diminished. Only then could humanity be freed from its icy grip. The only way to stop it was to make people stop believing in Santa and in the modern ideas of Christmas altogether. Armed with this knowledge, I knew what I had to do. I had to return to the world, to the heart of the Christmas celebration, and expose the truth. It was a daunting task, a seemingly impossible mission, but I was no longer just a toy maker. I was a survivor, a witness, a harbinger of a terrifying truth. Anuk and the villagers helped me prepare for my journey. They gave me supplies, warm clothing, and most importantly, a collection of the ancient artifacts from the hidden chamber, objects imbued with a power that could counteract the creature's influence. My journey back to civilization was fraught with peril. The creature, sensing my intent, sent its twisted minions after me, monstrous parodies of reindeer, animated snowmen with razor-sharp teeth, and other horrors that defied description. But I fought back, fueled by a desperate hope, and armed with the ancient artifacts. I used these tools to fight off the dark magic and protect myself on my long journey. I finally reached a major city on Christmas Eve, the peak of the creature's power. The city was a frenzy of activity, a kaleidoscope of bright lights, festive decorations, and the joyous sounds of Christmas carols, but beneath the surface, I could sense the creature's influence, a subtle undercurrent of fear and anxiety that permeated the air. I could feel the creature's presence growing stronger each second. I knew I had to act fast. I began my crusade, a one-man war against the myth of Santa Claus. I stood on street corners, preaching the truth, my voice hoarse but filled with conviction. I handed out pamphlets filled with the ancient texts, translated into modern languages. I used the artifacts to disrupt the city's power grid, causing blackouts that momentarily shattered the illusion of festive cheer. At first, people dismissed me as a madman, a lunatic ranting against a beloved tradition. But as the creature's influence grew stronger, as the gifts began to wreak havoc, as the darkness beneath the surface began to rise, some people started to listen. A small group of individuals, those who had been touched by the creature's darkness, those who had seen through the illusion, rallied to my cause. They were journalists, artists, hackers, and ordinary citizens who had witnessed the horrors firsthand. Together, we launched a campaign to expose the truth. We hacked into television broadcasts, replacing the saccharine images of Santa with the terrifying reality of the old one. We projected images of the ancient texts onto skyscrapers, revealing the true history of Christmas. We created a viral online movement, spreading the truth across the internet like wildfire. The world was thrown into chaos. The joyous celebration of Christmas was replaced by fear, confusion, and outrage. Governments tried to suppress the information, to maintain order, but the truth was too powerful, too terrifying to contain. The creature was losing its power, and it lashed out, causing a large snowstorm that went on for days, affecting millions of people. The climax of our struggle took place at the city's central square during the annual Christmas tree lighting ceremony, a globally televised event that symbolized the spirit of Christmas. The creature, in its monstrous Santa form, appeared at the ceremony, intending to use the event to unleash a final wave of terror upon the world. But we were ready. Using the combined power of the ancient artifacts and the growing disbelief of the crowd, we confronted the creature. The battle was epic, a clash between ancient magic and modern technology, between belief and truth, between light and darkness. The creature was powerful, fueled by centuries of fear and twisted belief. But it was also weakened, its power waning as the illusion of Santa Claus crumbled around it. In the end, it was not brute force that defeated the creature, but the collective will of humanity. As the crowd, finally seeing the truth, turned their backs on the monstrous Santa, chanting words from the ancient texts, the creature's form began to flicker and dissolve. With a final, agonizing shriek, the creature dissolved into a cloud of black smoke, leaving behind only the lingering stench of decay and the chilling silence of a world forever changed. The snowstorm stopped at that moment. The aftermath was a period of profound upheaval. The world was forced to confront a truth that shattered its most cherished beliefs. Christmas, as it had been known, was gone forever. But from the ashes of the old world, a new understanding began to emerge. People began to rediscover the true meaning of the winter solstice, a time of reflection, of community, of hope in the face of darkness. The focus shifted from material gifts to acts of kindness, from blind faith to critical thinking. The ancient rituals were revived, not as appeasement to a malevolent god, but as a celebration of the human spirit, a reminder of our connection to the natural world and to each other. As for me, I retreated from the world, seeking solace in the quiet solitude of the mountains. The scars of my ordeal, both physical and psychological, would never fully heal, but I found a measure of peace in knowing that I had played a part in saving humanity from a darkness it could not comprehend. It was not an easy task, but it was a necessary one. The world was forever changed. The red snow of silence had fallen, but from its depths, a new dawn had emerged. A dawn tempered by the harsh realities of the long winter, but illuminated by the enduring light of human resilience and the unwavering power of truth. The creature was gone, and though the scars remained, humanity would move forward. It would be a difficult journey, but there was hope. The long winter was over, and a new spring, though uncertain, had finally arrived. The old traditions were gone, but new ones would be forged. And though the memory of the red snow would forever linger, it would serve as a reminder of the darkness that had been overcome, and the enduring power of the human spirit to find its way back to the light.